Namaskar. Since doing the last interview, I discovered an old diary of spiritual experiences with Baba, both in sadhana, dreams, and meeting him physically, which I hadn't realized or which I hadn't remembered. So I'm going to include a few of them here. In the last interview, I told how when coming to see Baba, I had this concern that he wouldn't notice me, let alone talk to me. But then he turned it around and showed how foolish I was by complaining that I wasn't talking to him. But after that, things got much better, and here are some of the comments that my diary recorded. No, one time Baba did namaskar and then putting his hands up, said to me, "Is everything okay?" with a very sweet smile. And of course I said, "Yes, everything's fine, everything's wonderful." Another time, Baba turned to a brother and chuckled and did namaskar. Then turned to his PA and said, "Where's my Na'rada Muni?" And PA turned to me and said what Baba had just asked. And I said, "I'm here." Another time I asked Baba some questions and Baba replied, You ask very good questions," or words to that effect. And then he said, "I think this is your first time here." And I said, "Yes, Baba." And Baba said, very good, Kubo." And then he tried to grab my hand, but I didn't realize that's what he was trying to do, and he didn't succeed. And again, afterwards, I felt so foolish that he was trying to make physical contact with me. Yet another time I noted that he said, "Where were you? Were you there?" And he was talking about, I think, a talk he'd given earlier on. So he was just letting me know that he's been thinking about me and knew that I wasn't there, or pretending to wonder if I was there. And then at the end of the first time that I went to see Baba, at the end of it, he asked if I was coming again. And I said, "Yes, I'm coming to DMC," which was later at the end of that year. This was in September 1985. I first went to see him. He said, "Oh, I think that's a grand idea." And I said I was coming for DMC. And did namaskar to me and walked off, leaving me feeling very blissful. But so when I did, at the end of the year, go to DMC, that was quite an experience. Tens of thousands of Margiis were there, 20, 30, 40, it was hard to tell. And Baba would come on the dais and we'd all be there. Us Westerners would be up as close as we could get, mingling with all the Dadas and Didis who are already there. Usually there'd be some geet, and I think one time there was a dance or some sort of performance, and at the end of it we started to clap. And Baba said, "Don't clap." I found out later he said that it extroverts the mind. When you're in a spiritual state or when you're attending a spiritual function, your mind should be introverted, not extroverted, not being distracted by sharp noises which clapping makes. So I wonder if that should be also the case when doing kirtan. We shouldn't clap. We can use instruments, but not do anything that will extrovert the mind. For me, some of the highlights were getting prizes from Baba. There was Koshiki and Tandava prizes, which they'd have a competition, and those who came first, second or third would get a prize off Baba. And hearing about this, I thought, I've got to do that. Any excuse to be in front of Baba, and it didn't really matter if you got first, second or third, as long as you're there to get the prize. So I came second in Koshiki and third in Tandava, so twice I went up to get a prize off him, and Baba, one of them, Baba chuckles, said, "Oh, Na'rada Muni."
Second, 14 minutes, 20 seconds.
And he laughed. And the other one, he had some conversation with me, but unfortunately I didn't note down what that conversation was, and I've since forgotten. And I had Baba's blessing there. My first marriage to late Jayanti, and I got Baba's blessing, and so that was pretty amazing. And He'd say, be like Shiva in Parvati. But just being up there on the stage with the thousands of people behind you and Baba in front of you, just so much energy and bliss and love. Another thing I really liked about DMC was doing Guru Puja in front of Baba, with thousands of Margis all singing in unison. Although I did hear after one Guru Puja, Baba had complained that not one person was doing it properly. And I'm sure he was talking about the ideation, not the physical aspect of it. Got me thinking about how to do the ideation much better. But it also made me think that how remarkable that Baba would know what everyone was thinking. We're talking about tens of thousands of Margis at DMC, being able to know each and every mind what they were thinking when they were doing Guru Puja and no doubt other things. And this is one of the differences between cosmic mind and unit mind. The unit mind can only do one thing at a time, where the cosmic mind can do multiple things at a time, including know what everyone is thinking and feeling at one time. One of the big advantages of having Mahasambhuti, Sri Anandamurti as your guru. One of the great highlights for me, of course, was getting PC, and I talked about it a bit in my previous interviews, but what I didn't explain was the drama that went on to get the PC. Baba was always emphasizing organizational matters, doing organizational work, and he made a rule that if you wanted to get PC, you had to be a Bhakti Pradhan. Fortunately, I was one and was lucky enough to get selected. I think as an Indian brother and a Brazilian brother at that time. I think it was 86, 87 when I got it. Then there was this drama after we finally got permission to get PC. He wasn't calling us for PC. Days were going on with nothing happening. And his personal assistant, Keshavananda, asked me how everyone was coping with not getting PC yet. And I said, oh, it's okay. It was just Baba's drama, his way of purifying our minds and preparing us for PC. And later when Baba asked Keshavananda how we were coping with the delays, he told Baba what I'd told him. And Baba said, oh, I knew Narada was a revolutionary, but not a philosopher as well, which I thought was quite ironic given my poor educational background. Baba always was emphasizing whatever we could to do for his mission. If we're intellectuals, he encouraged us doing intellectual work. If we're karma yogis, he encouraged us to do a lot of service work. And if we're into doing a lot of sadhana, he encouraged us to go deeper and deeper in our sadhana. But whatever we did, the most important thing is that we're doing it for him, not for our own self-glorification. An interesting story I'll never forget, which one Dada told me when he visited me in jail. He said how he reported to Baba about some work that some Margis were doing. Baba's response was, while it is no doubt good work, it is not his work, and then turned away and showed no interest in hearing anything more about the projects. Dada concluded that Baba was only interested in work that's done to build up the organisation, through his organisation, through the trades and departments. Baba also showed quite a bit of disdain towards any kind of pursuit of prestige or titles or posts, saying we should have dignity of labour, not of post, and that we should focus on being humble and modest, both in dress and our behaviour, rather than promoting ourselves. There's a funny story where one day Baba was scolding one Dada outside his home in Lake Gardens. And Dada said, "Not so loud, Baba. The neighbours will hear you." And Baba said, "Oh, prestige, eh?" And then he started to scold him with an even louder voice. the highlight, I guess, for everyone was the Varabhaya mudra, which he did at the end of the DMC. And I just remember the feeling this energy, strong but subtle, it's hard to explain, just sort of went through my chest. Some people were crying, other people were laughing, others were falling over in samadhi, but I just felt this very strong but subtle feeling, energy pass through me, leaving me very different, I guess, when I came out of that, a really strong feeling. And it's interesting, just a few months ago I was in India, doing a lot of sadhana at Ananda Nagar, in Baba's house particularly. And one experience I had where Baba came in Varabhaya mudra for a few seconds, then went away for a few seconds, then came back for a few seconds, then went away all the time doing the mudra. And then finally the third time he did the mudra again, but this time I had that feeling, I felt the energy that I'd felt this time at DMC happening again. And I felt, really strange, sort of this subtle, bit like my brain felt a little bit numb from it. But I felt, a bit sort of spaced out afterwards. Something definitely had happened, I didn't know what. But it reminded me again and again how Baba is still here. One interesting experience I had after DMC is when I came back to the room where all the others were. It was a very rajasic energy. I was a bit surprised. I was feeling quite high and sentient and sattvic, but this energy was very rajasic. Everyone was talking very loud and thinking about food and other mundane things. And I realized later that this is what happens when we're around Baba. We would get elevated just being in his presence. Yet similarly when he'd do his Varabhaya mudra, we'd get elevated. But when he removed himself, then we'd come down, and all our rajasic and even tamasic samskaras can come rushing back in. And you may have noticed that when you come back from a retreat where you're feeling very high and get back home, certainly when we used to see Baba, we'd get back, and after some time our minds would come back down again to the way it was before, a more rajasic state, not so sentient, not so elevated. And I remember that also happened when I went and saw Binduswari. He raised my kundalini, and that was amazing, but by the time I got back to the Jagrati where I was staying, my mind had gone back down to so-called normal consciousness. And I realized then, as wonderful as it was to experience that, in this case, the kundalini being elevated to a higher chakra, unless you're doing it yourself, then it is not so important. I mean, it's significant to get inspired by the state that you can achieve through sadhana. But you have to be able to get it yourself. And similarly, or achieve it yourself. Similarly, when going to see Baba, it's wonderful what you experience, but until you can become that yourself through your sadhana, your service, your sacrifice, then we still have a lot of work to do. And it reminded me of a quote from Baba, which he said, and I'll read it out. To attain him, human beings should practice Shravana, mañana, and nitidhyasam. To attain him, one must penetrate deep within oneself. And for that, the development of an introversive outlook is essential. An extroversial outlook will be of no assistance. And I found this to be very important. And really, this is one of the major differences between religion and spirituality. In religion, it's all extroversive. It's worshipping idols, images and pictures of their Ishta or God and Guru. And these days, it's often all over social media. Baba discouraged this kind of external Guru worship and instead emphasised internal ideation and sadhana. That is where the real Guru is to be found. I remember Binduswari telling me he never needed a photo of Baba because he could see Baba everywhere, in the walls, in the ceiling, in his bed, in the food. Everywhere he looked, he could see Baba in his form. That's something to aim for, even though it's very rare. Although it is true his photo has special power, particularly the Dhyan photos, all of them should be treated with proper respect and reverence, which is a part of the 16 points concerning sanctity of Ishta. Baba wanted them primarily for the puja table, therefore they should not be treated like any worldly photo and modified or displayed in public or in social media like Facebook. Initially, I used to run after Baba, the external Baba, like everyone else, seeking out his attention, not to speak of him saying something. But after a while, after some trips to India and doing a lot of sadhana, I realised and learnt that Baba, the real Baba, was internal, not his physical form. He always used to say, I will not this body, I will not be here forever. Don't get attached to it. And so I started to do a lot of sadhana, or for me a lot of sadhana, about 8 to 10 hours a day. It was then I started to have the introversive experience of Baba, and he would come in, particularly in dreams or in sadhana. Seeing him externally, it was still wonderful, but I didn't feel the need to get the attention from him, because I was feeling that attention internally all the time. Baba was loving and guiding me. And Baba said, the inner expressions of Palm Purusha is in the human ectoplasmic world, that is the mind, which is decidedly more sublime than his manifestation in the outer world. For he is drawing human beings, attracting them in their ectoplasmic world. He says, come along, come to me, you'll have to come. Humanity cannot but respond to his irresistible call. This ectoplasmic world, i.e. the mind, is where I was starting to experience him more and more rather than just his physical form. And particularly in dreams, some of which I'll share with you now. I was next to Baba and he gives me a penetrating look, and Baba says, do you want to see me? Or do you want to meet me? And then I woke up. In one dream he looks straight into my eyes, making me also look back into his eyes. And gradually he's coming closer and closer and closer to me. And then he puts his finger on my Agya chakra, and slowly I just fall back into some kind of spiritual state. And then I woke up. Jayanti said to me, at just a moment ago I was making some mild groaning, some pleasant groaning noise, which was when I was having that experience. Another dream I noted, Baba came in a dream and I was watching him in the hall with others talking. But I moved closer to him until I was sitting in front of him. But then Baba asked me, how do I get closer to him? And I replied, by holding your form in my mind. Baba said, very good, this means that you are progressing. The dream ended with me gazing into his eyes, admiring him lovingly. In this dream, I noted that I was in a dark room speaking to someone, to Baba. I had a video camera, and when Baba was talking, I pointed the camera at him through the viewfinder. I could see him. His face was so strong and powerful, in a sense, and serene, as well as very sweet and loving. I woke up and then went back to sleep again and dreamt me telling others about this dream. Baba then appeared in this dream, and he came towards me looking luminous and a bit transparent. He got bigger and bigger as he came towards me, and eventually engulfed me and my mind as I became overwhelmed by him. Then I woke up. While doing dhyan, I noted that I fell into some kind of dreamlike state, and there I was thinking that I was going to get a second PC with Baba, and I was thinking how lovely it was. Baba was lying down in his cot with such a beautiful, loving look and smile, watery eyes, so strong And then I do a strong pranam. And when I open my eyes to get up, he's gone. But so I continue doing dhyan. October the 1st, 1991. In a dream, I'm doing many things. This is a long dream when suddenly Baba appears and looking very solid and grounded, unmovable. And from him I heard saying, I am the only permanent thing in this world, and I am the only thing worth pursuing. A few days later, just before his Mahaparan anniversary, I was doing dhyan before going into a sleepy state. Suddenly I got a strong feeling that he was in the room with me, but I couldn't see him, but I could feel his presence, so I felt both excited and tense at the thought of him being physically with me. Then I felt him lying in my lap, and I massaged his face, telling him how beautiful he was. Baba had said that we would meet again in the future, but that never happened, so I wondered if this is what he meant. In some dreams, Baba gets angry with me and teaches me important lessons. In a dream, I was in a small room telling Margis about Baba, his modesty, how he lived, etc. But while talking, I noticed some Margis talking amongst themselves, and I got angry and scolded them to be quiet or leave. Some others also expressed annoyance that they were talking. Suddenly, Baba appeared from the crowd and quickly walked over to a corner of his cot and put his blanket over his head and went to sleep. I felt guilty that I had done something wrong, but I didn't know what it was. But then everyone decided to leave the room so Baba could sleep. I went out and bought some food made by someone who makes food for Baba. When I returned, I saw Baba sitting in his front door. I quickly went towards him, but Baba shut the door in front of him, so I couldn't see him. I ran around the side of the door with his food and caught him starting to shut the next door. I said to Baba, "There's some food for you." But he replied, "Are you the one that was speaking today?" I said, "Yes, Baba." "You didn't once use your Guru mantra," he said in an angry, annoyed tone. "You cannot touch the hearts of others if you don't use your Guru mantra. They all get bored with your talk. Didn't you see how they weren't interested in what you were saying? Because you didn't take your Guru mantra." And then, still annoyed, Baba shut the door in my face, and I woke up. In this dream, I was in an Indian town, actually looking for one Didi Ananda Samhita. And I saw a long line outside the compound, Didi's compound. And it looked like a lunch queue. Everyone was lining up for something to eat. So I got in the line. And while in the line, I was thinking how much I missed Baba physically. And then I heard Baba's voice in my head tell me, and I'm still dreaming, I should repeat my mantra. I did this, and immediately the feeling of missing Baba went away. I felt quite blissful, actually, in the dream. Then I felt the queue was not for lunch, but it was for Baba. But I thought, how could this be? Baba had left his body about 16 years previously. But then suddenly I could hear everyone shouting Baba's name, "Baba's here, Baba's here." And suddenly he appeared. He started to walk down the queue, stopping to talk to everyone as he walked along. Gradually he was getting closer and closer to me, and I was getting very excited, thinking I was going to get to talk to Baba. But then he stopped in front of the Margii next to me and started talking to him, and I was thinking mentally, "Why are you talking to him? I want you to talk to me, Baba." Then he turned towards me, and I told him that I was missing him. Baba said, "I've already told you how to fix that problem." Then he put his hands out to me, but before I could grab Baba's hands, he immediately pulled them back, as if he just noticed that everyone was looking at us. Baba turned forward to continue walking along the queue, leaving me rather blissful, and then I wondered what he meant by saying, "I've already told you how to remove my missing him." Then I remembered. He told me to repeat my mantra. On the spiritual path, Baba talks about 4 different ways you can have a relationship with Param Purusha, with Baba. And he writes, advancing towards him, and while advancing towards him, they establish some sort of relationship with him. That relationship is internal. It is purely personal. One may love him as a mother loves her son, a wife her husband, a servant his master, or as a friend loves one another. The next few dreams I'll share with you reflect this state that I have with Baba, which is the wife loving her husband or her lover. I was in the back seat of a car with Baba in a dream. I felt like I was his wife, and when the car stopped, there were many Margiis eager to meet him. During the car drive, we did not speak, although I felt very close to Baba. When Baba got out to meet with the Margiis, I was watching from the car and didn't feel any desire to meet him, because I felt he'll be returning home soon. Let the Margiis enjoy Baba, I thought. Soon I'll have Baba all to myself. In another Baba dream, Baba was sitting on a stool waiting for me, and so I sit next to him. We look into each other's eyes with great feelings of love. Now that I was there, Baba felt he could go on with his work, knowing that I was sitting by his side, enjoying his company and proximity. There was nothing to say. We were like two lovers, just enjoying being close to each other and enjoying each other's presence. Also, while in India, I took some notes of comments that Baba had made, and here are some of them. One Dada tells me that Baba said that only a small group of British together go to make up one sex, and then he gave a demonstration waving his hands up and down in front of himself, and then told the audience, you'll notice female features developing in him, this Dada. Baba said in the future there'll be a problem of people wanting to change their sex because they have changed their nature and started to do many things that are opposite to their nature. For example, women doing men's work develop more body hair in their face. Dada noticed also that in India, many people were starting to go to the hospital wanting a sex change, which has become more of an issue now. On September the 7th, 1985, I noted that Baba said, after doing Prabhat Samgit, he got up and said, I know you are mine, but why don't you come closer to me? In my last interview, I talked about coming to India thinking that Baba didn't really appreciate the sacrifices and struggles that I'd been through in jail and before then for him. But Baba showed me in a very beautiful way how this wasn't true. I talked about attending a Prabhat Samgit where Baba was sitting outside Lake Gardens. It was a moonlit night. Baba looked very majestic and beautiful. I had a very romantic feeling seeing the moonlight shining off his face as he listened to the Prabhat Samgit. And then when he finished, he went to get up and then he sat down again. And he said, up until now he was talking in Bengali, but now he broke into this beautiful English so I could understand. There was only a few of us around Baba at the time. And he said, I would like to invite you all to attend a festival of light. This light is both within you and without you. And I'd like to invite you all to attend to it permanently. When I heard that, I was overwhelmed with inspiration. I just blurted out, thank you, Baba. And Baba was just about to get in the car as I said that, and he stopped and he turned his head like this as if to say, did you say something, or what did you say? And then he looked up at me and he said, and I thank you. And when he said that, I knew he was thanking me for all that I'd done in the past. And a great wave of love and bliss just hit me, and I was just overwhelmed, and I felt like I was melting like butter. And Baba nonchalantly just turned and hopped in the car as nothing special had happened. And it was amazing because it felt like time had stopped still, and only him and me were interacting, and no one else was really aware of it, although later someone asked me, what is it that Baba was saying to you? But this is what he does when he wants to create an intimate moment with his devotees. But then later, more to the point why I'm bringing this up, is several years late, many years later, in fact, last year, I was doing kirtan in my sadhana room, looking at I have a big photo of Baba, and I was looking at him while doing kirtan. And then thinking about this experience with Baba thanking me, and I was feeling all this emotion and teary and feeling very inspired and overwhelmed, thinking about Baba's love. And then all of a sudden I noticed Baba's face come out of the photo. So it went from a 2D photo to a 3D photo. I could see the texture in his face, and not only that, but as I was swaying backwards and forwards doing kirtan, he is swaying backwards and forwards following me. And also the other amazing thing was every time I blinked, his face seemed to change. It still was the same face, but somehow it was changing every time I blinked to something different. And I used to get this sometimes in jail when I was looking at Baba's photo. But this was really real, and Baba really felt like he was there. This went on for about a minute, I'd say. And then his photo went back to being a normal, flat 2D photo. Amazing. When I was in India, I was asked if I would go and attend reporting, Bhakti Pradhan reporting. I was a Bhakti Pradhan at that stage. Reluctantly, I agreed because I knew it was what Baba would want, because he's very big on doing things to promote the organisational structure, keep it healthy. So attending meetings was very important. But I was sad because I wouldn't be able to go to DMC as well. Couldn't afford to go there as well. But I thought if it makes Baba happy, then I would do that. I'd go to reporting. And reporting was quite an experience, very crowded, and in this room, I don't know, 50 or so of us there. And you get to see all these different moods, and it was both exciting and tense, because you didn't know whether he was going to be blissful or very stern, the stern guru or president, and scold you and expose all your weaknesses and tell you what you've done wrong in front of everyone. But he could also do some amazing things as well. So there's that tension. But fortunately or unfortunately, he never called me out. But I did get to see other people. And I remember one brother, he was really kept on telling him, no, stand over there. And he'd sort of literally jump over there. No, over there. And he'd jump over there. And he's sort of jumping backwards and forwards. It was quite funny to see. And one really strange ending, which I always remember, which I've never heard him doing before, or since. Often at the end of the session, people would shout out Pampita Babaki, and everyone would say Jai. But then Baba said, hip hip, hooray, hip hip, hooray, hip hip, hooray, and then got up and walked out. Reminds me of one story, one Baba story, where there was this one Dada was telling me he was outside Baba's outside Lake Gardens waiting for reporting. And there's a lot of workers there, and they're all doing different things, so he just sat down and started doing sadhana on Baba. The next thing, he gets called in to see Baba. He was the only one that got called in, and Baba says, do you know why I've called you in and not anyone else? And he says, no. And he says, because I've called you in because you were the only one thinking about me. Everyone else was thinking about other things. They were thinking about their work, about reporting, gossiping about what they want to eat next, but only you were thinking about me, so only you did I want to see. It's good to remember that. It is said that God created this universe to remove his loneliness. However, most have forgotten him for creation. Perhaps this is why God loves his devotees so much, because they're always thinking about him, talking and singing about him, thus removing his divine loneliness. Reminds me of a story where there's a sister who kept on falling into samadhi, and the Margiis told Didi she should teach her more lessons. She only had up to second lesson. And Didi explained that every time she sat her down to try and give her more lessons, they'd do sadhana and she'd just fall into samadhi. So she couldn't give her any more lessons, and she felt that she didn't need them, and you don't. The lessons are there to help you to reach the goal, but she'd obviously reached the goal with just first and second lesson. Even when she'd turn on the tap and see water running out, it'd remind her of Baba and she'd fall into samadhi. And there's another sister like that I met when I was LFT in Canberra in Australia, back in the early 70s. And one day, and she was always going into samadhi. And one day, I asked her to take a meditation class, a beginner's meditation class. And because I had to go out, and when I came back, the other brother that was living in the Jagrati with me, there was only me and his sister in the whole of the unit there. He said, I don't think you should let her take any more classes. And I said, why not? He said, well, when she sat everyone down to meditate, and she meditated, she just fell over into samadhi and she just lied there. They were all just looking at her and looking at each other, not knowing what to do, so they all got up and left. And I asked her, I said, how does your husband deal with this? Because he wasn't a Margii. And she said, oh, when I go into samadhi, I just sort of fall into his lap and he sort of gets lost in it as well. Amazing sister. When I used to go to India, both during Baba's time and after he left his body, I used to seek out a few strong sadhaka type workers. A couple of Madhu Gostis like Bhaskarananda and Manishananda, and also other great sadhakas like Dada Chandranath and Chidgadanandaji. And I remember one time talking to Chidgadananda about an experience I had, and he gave me some very valuable advice. I explained how I attended this one day sadhana shavir at Nandanagar, and afterward for the next 3 days I felt very elevated, very blissful, and this blissful bhav. But then suddenly it just went away. And I asked him, why is this? How come I lost this ideation? He said it's very important to look at what you are thinking about at the time of losing your ideation. That's probably the cause of the loss. If you're having some worldly thought or rajasic even, let alone tamasic thought, someone talking to you about worldly things or gossiping, can be anything. So always keep your mind in the ideated state. And that's why the Shravana, mañana and nitidhyasam are so important. It keeps us in that ideative state. And one time, while visiting Dada Chandranath and getting a lot of inspiration and guidance on sadhana and Baba and spiritual things, and I was really enjoying it, and he seemed to have been enjoying it too. And he asked me to come and visit him again. And I said, okay, I will. Very happy to oblige. And the next time I came to India was to finish my Acharya training, the A part. And on the train journey, I met an Indian family, and they are inspired to get initiated and asked me to come and visit them and initiate them after I finished my training, which I said I would do. But I had a dilemma because I wanted to go and visit Dada Chandranath, as I said I would. But I didn't have time to do both. But having just finished my A-part Acharya training, I thought I should do that and I should do that and go and visit the family, which I did, and I initiated them all, plus their neighbours. It was a great success. I'm glad I went. And I was thinking, oh, well, next time I'll go and visit Dada Chandranath. But in the meantime, he passed away. So I was so upset, and I still feel a bit upset thinking about I lost that chance to see him again. But I think I did the right thing. But what I'm coming to is that after that I noticed some more senior workers and Margiis who had great experiences with Baba leaving their bodies, and I thought, what a shame it is that they're all passing away and we don't have a record of these great people. So that is what inspired me to do this Margii Experiences podcast. And so when I started, I had a poor internet, so I was only doing the interviews and recording most of the audio. But later, when I got better internet service, I started to record the video as well. So if you have a story or you know someone who has a story, please don't hesitate to contact me. I know many are shy and decline. Those who I've been able to convince always are happy that I convinced them, because they said how inspired they got reliving their experiences with Baba. And of course we get inspired hearing them. And not only for present Margis and workers of the world, but also future generations can look back and see what it was like to be around Bhagawan Sri Sri Anandamurti.